giving them that creative flow, that right brain outlet, that right brain thinking process, I think really helps develop their athleticism, and just kind of like allowing them, okay, when I'm out on my own, maybe I don't have, the equipment that I have in here. Like, what can I do to plan a workout on my own? I only have, X amount of time. What did I learn as a kid? What did I learn from my coach and my trainer? And that's going to help me figure out how to plan on my own.
Hey everyone, you're listening to the Lively Charleston Podcast. Our goal with this show is to interact and tell the stories of the amazing people, places, and businesses that make Charleston the best city in the world.
If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to iTunes, Spotify, and YouTube.
And check us out on Instagram and Facebook, where we post content regularly throughout the week. All right, and we have Mr. Leonard DeFino, the man, the myth, the legend, in the flesh, joining us here today on the Lively Charleston Podcast. Thanks for being with us, brother.
Thanks, Jay. Thanks, Kyle. It's been a pleasure to be here and talk with you guys so far. I'm ready.
Happy to have you, man.
And so, of course, we have Kyle with us. Kyle actually did the very first Lively Charleston video with me over there at the Brick. And Here we are reunited again for a very special occasion. So we got a lot to talk about today, boys.
Yeah, we do.
Len, we're going to get into what you've been up to, doing some really cool work here in the Charleston area, working with some cool people, some athletes. We're going to work it back into kind of how you got into what you're doing now and your vision for the future. But let's kick things off and get to know you a little bit, and just kind of, what made you the man you are today.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm currently a business owner, founder of LAD Performance. So it's like a local sports performance, strength conditioning company here in the Charleston area. And right now, predominantly working with high school, college-age athletes, a couple professionals. And really it all stemmed from my athletic journey, growing up and not really having that like figure or like a guide or any sort of reference on how to develop my athleticism. So long way into that, fast forwarding through my 20s, I kind of opened up this business just kind of as a way to help my former self, really, and just kind of be there as a guide, as an educator, first and foremost, to a lot of these kids, like a brotherly figure to help them develop their athleticism. That's what I like to think of our company as, first and foremost, as an educational company. We want to provide all these resources, especially now when there's an information overload. We want to dial it down, sum it up, package it in a way that's easy for these kids to, develop and grow. And man, it's been fun just working with all these kids. Just it reminds me of my past self, and I think I get a kick out of that. So definitely happy with my current job and this venture, and excited for what's coming down the pipeline.
Let's dive into that a little bit. You said it reminds you of your past self and being a kid and an athlete. And it was so where'd you grow up? Did you grow up here in Charleston?
No, I actually grew up in Cleveland, Ohio. So I know several of the local Charlestonians now are from Ohio, so they have to go back to Ohio stuff. Going through that in college.
There's a few. There's a couple.
Yeah, and then so I grew up in Cleveland. Really just grew up in a family that just was always active. I had 3 brothers and sisters, and we always had the backyard sports going. And I played all sports you can imagine, and really kind of gravitated towards basketball, soccer, and golf. And when I was growing up, I remember my mom driving me everywhere to play basketball tournaments or, for high school or AAU. And I just loved the sport. And it's funny, when I was growing up, I played soccer, and I was a pretty good soccer player, actually. My dad he would always shake my head when I would start to gravitate towards basketball. He's like, "You're white, you're only 5'8". He goes, "Soccer is much more in your future than basketball." But for whatever reason, I just kind of gravitated towards that sport, and really just kind of pursued it head on. Basketball. Basketball is my game, and played it at a pretty high level, and looked at playing in college, a couple opportunities at some small Division II schools and stuff in Ohio and Pennsylvania. And then I had a cousin who graduated from the College of Charleston. So when I was a sophomore, I went down here to see her graduation. I just fell in love with the city. Obviously, there's a lot at play here relative to Cleveland. So, and then I decided to come here and go through the whole walk-on process. And I remember the tryout when I was a freshman, and the coach at the time was Bobby Cremens. He's formerly at Georgia Tech, and they have the arena named after him, Cremens Court. And he just after the tryout, I thought I did pretty well, and he pulled me aside, and he's like, "I'm sorry, son, you're just too small. You're not gonna make it at that height." And I was so disheartened. I was just everything I did to get to that point was just try and put me in a position to play at the collegiate level. I thought I could. I thought I had the skill set. Obviously, I was, 6-7 inches shorter than the point guards, I was up against. But I was just so deflected, and I just kind of went through a spiral. Just a lot of negative self-worth, negative self-talk, and started drinking a lot more as a freshman. Just typical college stuff, and just kind of went down a nasty spiral. Thought about transferring that whole year really to a smaller school back home to try and play basketball. And I remember reaching out to, I'm not even kidding you, every coach, Division I, Division II in the country, emailing them, cold calling, just trying to figure out where there might have been an opportunity, sending my old high school tapes, setting up my camera and trying to record myself in the rec gym at College of Charleston. So anyways, that's a little bit about my story. And I find that I really gravitate towards those kids, who are just looking for direction, like I was, just looking for that sort of guidance, that figure to help put them in a position to succeed at the next level. So, yeah.
So who are some of your idols growing up? Were they more sports figures, or were they? And then what sport did you look to? Was it all basketball?
Yeah, pretty much. So a lot of basketball guys, like the Steve Nashes of the world, Jason Williams, White Chocolate.
White Chocolate,
yeah. Iverson, obviously,
nice.
And then LeBron being from Cleveland. I kind of idolized him. And
how old were you when LeBron got drafted?
I was
I guess
probably
20 years ago, right?
Yeah.
20 years
So
ago.
what am I now? 32. So 9. So I was probably second, third. Does that make sense? Second,
you're 12.
You were 12.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Middle school.
Sixth grade.
Yeah. Sixth grade. Yeah. I remember seeing him in the state championships in Ohio. I went down with a buddy of mine, and just
oh wow.
Yeah, being when he was a sophomore, I think, and it was just oh my gosh, just an absolute specimen. So it was just crazy to see, and obviously for Cleveland, that was that was a big deal. I would go down to play at Cleveland State school down in the inner city downtown, and I would go there for practices, and it was right close to the Cavs arena, and you could just see him every once in a while, kind of either driving away or just kind of coming through Cleveland State, and I was just in awe. And I was eighth or no, what was that, 9th, 10th grade or something like that, 11th grade. It was just really cool, just starstruck.
He was everyone's idol in Cleveland, right? He was the mayor of Cleveland.
Exactly.
Your parents had season tickets to the Cavs, right?
Yeah,
So
they had him, and
bit.
I got a chance to see him a little bit, and whenever I came in town, I would always go to the games and stuff, and my dad would always send me memorabilia from him, and he had actually a signed Sports Illustrated LeBron when he was on the cover.
The chosen
from LeBron.
one.
Yeah, and he had a little he won it, I guess in some sort of event, the chosen one, and it was addressed it was this long little letter that someone else wrote and kind of about what it was for and stuff, and it was really cool. He has that framed in his office and stuff.
Nice.
So yeah,
that's wild.
Yeah, my brother and I are fighting for that now. Who's gonna take that?
Yeah. So who's your goat? I mean, LeBron's your goat then, right?
Yeah.
Over MJ?
It's tough, man. It's just I got to see more LeBron than MJ, so it's all kind of relative.
Yeah.
Obviously, I think majority of the people would say MJ, but there's something about those flashy guards I really liked, like the Jason Williams and the Allen Iverson, and I kind of gravitated toward. I remember in high school, I would literally put on, and this is an old name, I don't know if anyone knows this, but Sharon Collins. He was a point guard for Kansas. He was kind of shorter, stockier, a little bit like me, and he was just so crafty and explosive in his game. And I remember between him and Allen Iverson and Steve Nash, I would watch hours worth of game tape before my high school and AAU basketball games, just trying to in the living room go through that range of motion that they would do in a crossover, or just kind of figure out ways to spin or do different counter moves when I was dribbling and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean those are some of my idols, mainly sports figures.
And even some of those guys, talking about the size thing, they look small on a basketball court, but they're still
huge.
6'2", 6'3", right?
Exactly.
Yeah. With a 6'8" wingspan.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's hard to kind of put that in perspective, right? Who's, I guess maybe Isaiah Thomas.
Yeah.
More recently, and how big is he?
Right. Yeah. He's probably he lists himself as 5'9", 5'10". Yeah. So.
Okay.
But who knows? I mean, he's probably, like I said, got a 6'3", 6'4" wingspan. That makes a huge difference.
But he's really the smallest guy, recently to make him have success, right?
Yeah, I know. I think it was the Raptors that I saw just drafted that guy Noel from Kansas State. He was a 5'7" guard. He played really well in the tournament.
He did really well in the tournament.
So I know he's someone who probably get a chance to the next level, but it'll be interesting.
Yeah,
different game now.
So it's a to your point. So you had. Your coach kind of more or less shatters your dreams, with that one statement.
Yeah.
And it just kind of maybe a little dose of just how hard this
Right.
is, like what it is that you're trying to do.
Yeah.
And so, you said we went down a little bit of a spiral, maybe drinking a little bit more, doing stuff college kids do anyways, but maybe a little more of it.
Yeah, a little more for sure.
And then, so what happened from there as you're moving through college, moving out of college?
Yeah.
What were some of those next steps?
So I just kind of fell in love with like working out. I think really I would come back home in the summers, and I was a caddy for years and years and years. My brother and I were at a local a country club in the Cleveland area, and I remember coming back, probably going into my junior year, and talking to my brother Duncan, and he's like, "Oh, I just found this new thing. CrossFit is this up and coming, it's this up and coming fitness routine, and this fitness just
no one knew what to call it.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, what is it? I don't really know.
Yeah.
It looks
this
cool.
like constantly varied fitness activity, and I remember just going out to the park with him in the summer, going into, I think it was my junior year maybe, and just doing all these weird workouts with him in the park. We had a couple medicine balls. I think we had like a rope or something like that. We were doing all sorts of crazy stuff, and it was cool because, number one, I was working out with my brother, and we were like competing, like we were as kids, and it was always something different. And it was just like kind of coming in, collaborating with him, putting together a workout and doing it together. It was just kind of like, doing that with my brother, someone obviously I love and, grew up with, and, looked up to him a lot as he looked up to me, and just doing that with him, and, working out and training, and just kind of like feeling good about myself, I think, just kind of getting into that habit. And I think I just lost my competitive spirit in a way, and just kind of finding that a little bit in that friendly setting at that time was really big for me. And I mean, when I tell you I loved it, that might be an understatement. I got so hooked on it. Like, I was doing it 4 or 5 hours a day, every day. And then, fast forward like a year or two, I met you, Jay. Yeah. And, I ended up, joining Frequency. And I think that's kind of like what happened through the later stages of college. I don't know what happened. Something just clicked and just kind of changed it around a little bit. I remember like senior year of college, I had a lot of buddies who were, out partying and drinking. I was doing outdoor workouts or going to the rec center and like trying to hang from like the net, do pull-ups, or the rim and just do pull-ups there and stuff like that. And I just have like that very, addictive personality, for right or for wrong. It's just like when I do something, it's like, it's never 50%. It's like all in, it's all gas. Like I really have a tough time taking my foot off the gas. So I just kind of like hit that hard, and amidst some other internships, and then I graduated and really just stayed in the Charleston area after that. So
It's an awesome personality trait to have. Obviously, as long as it's directed in the right direction.
For good.
And so, but it really, like, I feel like most of the people that are highly successful, whether you're talking athletes or business people or really whatever it is, I mean, you name it, a musician, like a dancer, it doesn't matter. The people that go all in and that tend to get obsessed with it, have that tunnel vision, they're usually the ones that, get to that top 1%.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. I can definitely relate to that competitive spirit, and CrossFit kind of bringing that out in me. When I first joined the gym, I was in a little rough patch, and I was very competitive in high school, played sports and everything. And then you don't really, once you graduate and leave college, you're just like, all right, well, what do I do now? Like,
I know.
How do I fill that void?
Right.
But I remember walking into that gym and just instantly becoming addicted to it, and I was like, this is incredible.
Yeah, I remember when you walked in.
Yeah, it was awesome. So CrossFit definitely has done a wonder for me, and I know it's done the same for you.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, it's cool because it's like, you obviously have the community, which is like why people stay, right?
Huge.
They say they come for the fitness, they stay for the community, right?
Right.
In any sort of, boutique fitness, sort of business, right? Mm-hmm. But the cool thing about it is, like, early on, you have, science is on your side.
Right.
So it's like, you don't really have to be a magician. What's going to happen is, like, you lead someone through a workout,
right,
and they get that dopamine release, and their muscles are a little sore,
right,
and like the next morning they're in the mirror, like looking at the triceps, and you're like, they're feeling good. And you just, you lead them through a normal workout,
right,
but like, they're like, all right, that was awesome.
Yeah.
Like it keeps working for you even afterwards, right? And then they want to come back and they want to do it again. And like that momentum can build. And once you can just get someone over the hump of that first, like, that first workout, right? Or that first step in the right direction.
Yeah, no, definitely. I can definitely relate to that.
Okay, so let's talk about here. We're going to move into what you've been working on with your current business. But one thing you mentioned when we were talking before is that you got So you were in the corporate world.
Yep.
Working. We have a very similar path going into corporate finance for a while. You were in there a little longer than me, and then eventually just saying, "Screw this! I'm taking the plunge."
Yep.
And you talked about how one of the big things that helped you to do that was support from family, your fiance, and then you said surprisingly support from your dad.
Yeah. So it's it's kind of crazy. My story after college was, like you said, Jay. It was after after I graduated college, I started working at Boeing here in town. And actually that summer before I looked at, I was going to do a couple internships in New York City. I looked at, I actually got my trading license, so went through the Series 7 and that whole process. I was going to sit on a trading desk at a company called Dreyfus in New York City. And
can you give us investing advice?
Yeah, I don't know about that. Yeah.
You can do it. I don't know if it'd be good advice.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I ended up just staying and working at Boeing here as a financial analyst and doing a little bit of commuting between here and Seattle, Everett, Washington. And, I got into it originally. My dad, he's still to this day one of the smartest people I've ever met. I mean, he is so hard-nosed, but so analytically intelligent. I mean, the way he could just, decompose complex, problem solving, make it easy for everyone to understand, go through different, valuations of companies or, the stock market and figure out what to invest in. He was just so intelligent, and he could explain stuff in a way that was just easy for me to relate to. And I almost gravitated toward it because A, he was my dad. I looked up to him a bunch, and B, it was just it was cool. It was just kind of a different part of my brain that I was really working, I guess, at the time. And I just and then I got super analytical and, obviously worked as a financial analyst for 8 or 9 years at Boeing. And so really it was just kind of a little bit of a rub off from my dad. And, I like numbers. I like that, what is it, your left brain thinking, very analytical, it's very data driven. I am still to this day much more that side. I'm very analytical, very numbers oriented, KPIs, metrics, that sort of thing. And I love my time at Boeing. I met a lot of good people. Definitely wasn't the right fit for me deep down, but it was cool just to be there for 8 years. And I still keep in contact with a lot of my old bosses or managers or executives to this day, and really, really close friends still work at Boeing. So it was a really cool opportunity for me to be here in Charleston, have that secure, that safety net, that secure job, which, my dad would always preach, at that time, just get the secure job, work your way up, climb the ladder. Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. Keep doing the work, put your head down. And I was always good at that. But at some point, probably around the third or fourth year, I was just burned out entirely. And I just kind of gutted it out. And what I look forward to is before work or after work, I was doing my workouts, seeing you guys at the gym, the community, stuff like that. And it was just I got into that monotony, that routine every single day. And then, last year I was I can't no more. I was doing, a little bit of this on the side and just decided to take it on full time. So.
And how'd you finally just develop because you'd probably go up to the edge and then back up, and then up to the edge and then back off, right? Yeah. So how'd you finally just take the jump?
Yeah, so many times, Jay. I really think it was probably my dad and my mom, really. My dad, I was doing this on the side, and he was like, you can't make a living off of this, personal training, or, I told him how I wanted to work with athletes. And actually at that time, even when I was at Boeing, I would see a couple high school kids, and I would go, work them out at Crunch or, in my garage gym or out at the beach or something like that. And, I started to get a little bit more traffic, and, I would always call my dad once a week and just give him updates or whatnot on, life. And, around that time, this was probably last year, a little bit over a year, he got sick a little bit. And, it was just kind of some things started shifting in my life and in his life. And I think his whole perspective on everything kind of changed a little bit. He was much more, at least to me, it seemed much more proud of the fact I wanted to pursue this venture, this next step. And I'm sure he was, but just the way he portrayed that, it just really hit home. And, he pushed me. He was like, hey, if you're going to do this, he would say, don't half-ass it, give it 100%. You can always come back to the corporate world. And for him to say that, I was like, holy crap. Wow, that is just such a weight off my shoulders. Because to be honest, that was a major reason why I stayed at Boeing. There was a large influence from him. And, it's just kind of some push from him. And then, I met my now fiance Eliza, pushed from her, and I think just one thing led to another, and just kind of consistency. And last year, I mean, I was trying to balance the Boeing stuff, and then after hours or before hours working kids out at my garage gym and crunch. One had to give, so I decided to kind of do this full on. And I remember the day I told my dad, and he was so proud. I was so shocked. He was so proud, and he was just, he never really was an "I love you" type of guy. But I remember him saying that to me in the day when I made the decision, and I told him I gave my 2 weeks notice, and that was just like just a huge release off my shoulders. So that was big. And my mom, she was always like, hyping me up and pushing me. But for my dad to say that, I was like, wow, this means something. I gotta go after it. So, yeah.
I remember when we became friends and you were working at Boeing. I mean, you've been talking about quitting for, like 5-6 years now.
Yep.
So to see you finally pull the trigger and see it pay off, man, it's awesome. I'm super proud of you too.
Yeah, thanks, man.
So almost like the part of it was, not only is it scary to go start your own business, and will it work, or will I fail, and then how will the money work, and can I support myself? But then there's also this underlying, like, am I gonna disappoint my dad?
Yeah.
It almost seems like once that was removed, you're like, all right, the other things, those aren't so scary. I can take those on.
I think that was such a big thing for me, is that disappointment. That disappointment. I valued, and I think we all do to some degree, but for whatever reason, I valued his opinion of me so much, and it's kind of changed a little bit over the years, but I was just like always that was looming. And then the failure thing, I think those are the two big things. Like, what's my dad gonna think, and like, what happens if I fail? Like, what happens if I don't get clients? What happens if I'm like John Smith down the road and I've done differentiating factor? All these things I was like going back to the left brain thinking. I was so analytical, and I could never just like take a high level and just realize that I'm doing something that not many people are doing, just chasing this dream, this love, this like burning desire. So, yeah.
Let's talk about now LAD, which you launched just over a year ago today.
Yeah.
Let's give a round of applause for LAD's 1 year anniversary. Okay. So how have things gone since you took the plunge?
Yeah.
What have you been up to? How are things going?
Yeah. So things recently have been really good. Usually, it's the summer months are pretty big booms for me. A lot of the kids are out of school and looking for ways to just develop their athleticism. So I see a lot of them. I pick up probably like 2 times as many kids in the summer than I do during the school year. So right now it's really good. It's really good with the high school, college kids coming back in town. I think within the last 6 months, I think I've hit like almost 20 different Division I schools I've been working with. So it's been really cool. And
That's
five
awesome.
different high schools here locally, a couple different professional sports organizations.
When you say working with them, you mean you have an athlete from their program, working with you?
Yeah, working with me.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and I think the biggest thing for me has just been the in-season stuff. And that's something I think in this first year that I've really started to kind of like, finally, I think just kind of get my hands around, is just understanding that there needs to be some sort of a working relationship between the in-season strength and conditioning coaches and the private folks like me who are trying to work with the kids on the side. It's just, there's so much ego at play, I think, with a lot of the coaches. That's been such a tough dynamic for me to work with. And I can't, say I don't do that. I do. It's just like all this information that we're using, it's all recycled information. Nothing's new. It's just a way to like, how do we all come to terms and understand that, hey, it's not between you and I, it's the kid that's benefiting. So it's just like, I've had a couple calls with some of the sport coaches that said, hey, you're overstepping your boundaries. Like I can think of a couple last summer that I had, and I'll have like the high school coach say, hey, he's already working with our coach here at the school. Like, I don't think it's in his best interest to go through you. And I'm like, what? Like, so stuff like that, it happens often, but yeah, right now, man, it's been good. It's probably been the best it's been, just because just word of mouth's been great. I'm not the best at the, I don't have a great, I guess, online marketing strategy, something that's coming, it's in the works, but it's been good just to hear.
I don't know. I've seen some of your content. It's good, man. It's
Thanks,
pretty
Jay.
good.
Yeah, it's improving. Yeah, we'll see what's coming.
I feel like I always learn something every time I check it out.
Yeah, I try. That's what I like doing most, is just educating. But yeah, it's been word of mouth. It's been really good to me. And then also I'm over at the Country Club of Charleston. So I'm over there in the mornings as one of their personal trainers. So that's been great.
Okay.
Yeah, working with a lot of like, the older folks, but just like, golfers, tennis players specifically, just like a little.
So not just high school kids.
Yeah.
That's not your only.
Yeah. So that's not my only population right now. Although it is for my business. That's like really the target market, is that, I guess you could call it that, like scholastic athlete, so to say. And then, on the side right now, I'm working at the Country Club, which I mean, it's just been phenomenal. Like the people I've been working with over there, the connections, and a lot of those men and women will have me working with their sons and daughters, and that's been really cool too. So, things have been going really well. Launched a couple online programs, so now I'm doing some remote online training as well. Yeah, I have like a program that's just devoted to foundational athleticism for youth athletes. It's just a lot of different ways outside of the basic strength training to develop athleticism, working with skills such as, strength and speed and power and, agility, also range of motion. It's less time under the barbell, and it's more time kind of just doing different change of direction stuff outside, different agility, footwork training, more, I guess, a well-rounded athletic approach, just so like learning how to move with your body, as innately we do as humans, just kind of getting that well-rounded approach. And that's something I was really fortunate as a kid. I played all different sports, and I talk to the kids all the time. It's just like the more you can play, the more sports and different exposure to different sports you can play, the better athlete you'll be. I mean, I really felt that as a kid, and I try and, a lot of kids now are super specialized and stuff like that. And also, they see on the social media platforms what everyone's lifting and, the latest thing. And, so anyways, that program's just kind of about building that foundational athleticism in these youth kids. And then I have another program. It's like a golf prep program. It's like a 6-week golf program that I just launched with a couple people at the Country Club of Charleston who kind of helped me put the videos together and some different exercises. So
Kyle, I need this golf program
out there. Yeah.
Is it going to help me hit it straighter?
Hard. Oh yeah. Help you be more consistent out there, Jay.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I'm proud of working through that, and so that's kind of what I've had going on recently, and yeah. So
amazing, man. The foundational athleticism, that's huge, man. Like there's so much to it. It's kind of along the same lines of like what you were just saying, where when you're a kid, and my daughter right now, she's 10, and we have her in dance, we have her in swim, we have her in tennis.
Right.
Those, like, a lot of those skills really don't cross over. You know what I mean? Like
right.
Lateral movement in tennis isn't helping her a whole lot in the pool.
Yeah, exactly.
Know what I mean?
Yeah.
But just being exposed to all these things and giving her, like you said, that foundation to be able to just decide whatever she wants to do. Right. Is just to be a healthy human or specialize in some sport, whatever that is. But she'll have a broad range of skills and movement patterns and just the coordination involved, that you just kind of develop, and learning the rhythm of certain things and like how to move your body to your point. It's so important. It goes a long way.
Yeah, and I think the problem solving too is another thing that I really want to hammer with these athletes is, a lot of them, they are linear thinkers, like A to B to C to D, and maybe the exposure from what I see.
So what does that mean when you say they're thinking linearly? What do you mean by that?
Yeah, so it's just, with all sports, I think there's a problem solving. You have to figure out whatever sport it is, especially the ball sports. Like I think about basketball or tennis or soccer. You have to be able to think on the fly. You have to be able to problem solve, and I think that's a part of your athletic journey. I think a lot of these kids, when they come in, who are just playing that one sport, they don't have that broad spectrum, that like the full package of athletic ability is just developed. So it's just going from one movement to the next. I want to follow the plan. I want to follow this. I move from A to B, and then I get into all my accessory lifts. It's just like, well, in my approach to the training, I actually give them, okay, here's a couple of broad things I want you to do. I want you to do a knee dominant movement, like a squat. I want you to do maybe like a hip dominant movement, like a deadlift or a hinge. And then I want you to throw in a couple accessory lifts. I want you to go figure out on your own, what are those? What do you want to do? Giving them that creative flow, that right brain outlet, that right brain thinking process, I think really helps develop their athleticism, and just kind of like allowing them, okay, when I'm out on my own, maybe I don't have, the equipment that I have in here. Like, what can I do to plan a workout on my own? I only have, X amount of time. What did I learn as a kid? What did I learn from my coach and my trainer? And that's going to help me figure out how to plan on my own. I think a lot of the kids, they just, see everything on the social media, and they just kind of see a program or see a friend posting something and they want to do it, and they just don't get into consistency because they just program hop from one thing or the other. And I found myself doing that a lot. And it's just, moving from, one step to the next step. All right, I pop open the app. I look at the next day. All right, here's my program for the next day. There's no like creative outlet for them. So a lot of the times when they're coming in with me, I give them a lot of opportunity to decide things on their own. Just, with some, here's what we're trying to develop. And this is the foundational principle as to why, like what sort of things would you want to do that fall in this camp? And just allowing them to just understand what that, what that'll look like for them. I think that's just that creative flow. And then also too, just I like to play a lot of games with the kids. So like I have spike ball and different like ball sports that we'll play, and we'll get in the pool and play some games. And I think that kind of helps spur some of that, that complex thinking, a different, ball sport, so to say. I play that with all the athletes, whether it's lacrosse, basketball, soccer, tennis. They all do the spike ball if they're coming in, maybe for a 2-on-1 or a 3-on-1. Just different way to kind of like compete in that friendly manner. And that's how they get better.
Huge.
So yeah.
That's huge.
Yeah.
I did martial arts when I was younger, and I remember even some guys and girls at the highest level of in Taekwondo, competitive Taekwondo, at the highest level, and they would be so good at Taekwondo, and they could jump in the air and do 2 spins and kick someone in the face. Yeah. But you give them a basketball, and there was like they were a second grader. There was like they had 2 left hands, and you'd be like, how are you so good at this? It's so terrible at anything with a ball.
Yeah. I remember listening to an interview Christian McCaffrey did, one of the best running backs in the NFL, and he talks about growing up playing basketball and baseball and all these sports and how much it helped him as he progressed into football. Right. Just having that coordination ability. And you're right, a lot of guys specialize in just one sport now, and they don't get that well-rounded athleticism. And I think me growing up, I played anything and everything I could. Yeah. And I definitely think that's helped me become a well-rounded athlete as I got older as well.
Definitely. And then also, too, on that point, like you said, Kyle, I think one of the things post-competitive journey, I think a lot of us, don't do is just the friendly competition. I know, like, we all play in the volleyball league. I play in a couple men's basketball leagues, and it's just there's something, like, innately just fun and just live about that. It's just, like, the competitive juices, and I feel like that's like helped me deal with the kids, and even in my own working space, it's just like it just makes everything more enjoyable, more fun. It's that creative outlet, or that competitive outlet rather. And I think as we go forward, we kind of gravitate away from that. I don't know why. We're all kids at heart. Why not go play the outdoor sports, or even if it's not the competitive environment, just go out and just compete, I guess, and that'll help you, I think, in your life.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So moving into taking the plunge into starting your business. We talked about how your dad was a really important part of you having the confidence to make that decision. Right. And then as we here in this room know your dad unfortunately passed away earlier this year. What can you share with us about how that's just impacted you and just your family and then your journey, which he had so much a part of.
Right. Yeah. So this year has been. I mean, the last couple of years have been tough, and I'll do my best to kind of keep it together. But my dad unfortunately passed on April 1st, and April Fool's was just such a. At first I was like, oh my gosh, is this a joke? But I remember, I was down working out, and I got a call from my mom. She was just frantic, and at the time, actually, my dad. He was in and out of rehab. He has struggled for years and years and years with different drug and alcohol addictions, and it runs in his family. And he had a couple of very close friends that I called my uncles who passed from overdose and stuff. So it's just kind of always been around him, and unfortunately, you could just never shake it. And there was always just kind of like this roller coaster, this wave of fighting the battle, going into rehab, trying to take himself away from these addictive things that were ruining his life. And it's so weird to think he was 30 some odd days sober, and then he passed, and it wasn't from any sort of overdose or alcohol. I mean, obviously that led to it, but it was just a heart attack, and he was 30 days sober. So of course, when I found that out and we got the reports back, I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? Like that's it wasn't because of that. He was actually trying. First time in my life, he was actually trying. It was just, it was crazy. But I remember, we went to like a rehab facility where he was in Pennsylvania, and this was middle to late February, and I remember we had this really amazing opportunity with some of the therapists there to sit in a room with my dad. And usually, my dad, he was the baby of 10 kids. I mean, he is so loud, and just like, as I'm doing now, talking with my hands, telling stories. He was just, you'd be in a room full of 1,000 people, who would be holding court would be him. I mean, he's just that type of guy. He's just so good with people. And, but I remember we were all locked in this room, and my dad was trying to avoid at first all of these tough conversations, and the therapists were like literally holding him down, and we were all in a room, and we were just trying to like break through to him, how much, he means to us, my siblings and I. Have, I think I mentioned, three siblings. They're all younger, and just like kind of hearing him express, some love, and not a lot of love, and just kind of breaking down some of his walls. I mean, we were just so emotional at the time, and, we had this activity, and they gave us like a task, and we had to kind of like draw a couple things in the rehab facility as it pertains to this high level task. And just kind of like, they were just dissecting some of the ways we drew the actual high level image. And I remember we had to go up in front of the room and kind of portray, why we pick certain colors or shapes or that sort of thing. And I remember going up there, and mine was just like very like edgy, like everything was like boxy. There was no creative flow. And my dad looks at me, he's like, "Bud, that kind of like summarizes your life, right? I mean, you're just so razored edge." He's like, you just kind of let it go, just kind of relax, and just like, let it come to you. He was just like, "You did such a good job of, portraying yourself." And he goes, "I just want to let you know that there's a lot more to you than that. Like you have this gift, this gift to kind of go away, from this corporate world and kind of pursue something on your own." And I remember having these talks with him when I was younger, but I'm not sure he was actually sober to have them, but he was, he would kind of hint at them, and for him to say that, being sober in that moment, that was really powerful for me, and it kind of clicked. And but yeah, just over the last few months, just having conversations with him. I mean, some of the best conversations in my life, over the last early part of the year, rather. It just wish I had more time. Being down here in Charleston over the last 13 some odd years. I can't help but think it's like, I saw my dad 2-3 times a year. I mean, over the last 13 years, it's just like, how many instances did I miss? How many times would I love to go back and just talk to him and ask him questions and sit in his office and just chat. Yeah, it was just like a really cool experience for each one of us in that rehab facility, just to have him break down a little bit and just kind of understand like why he got into that and how he couldn't shake it, and just a little bit of his upbringing. But it was just really cool to get his, I guess for lack of a better word, seal of approval, and just backing on that. That was really special for me. And then, fast forward, from February to April, when that all happened, I didn't know what to think. I was in such a rut. I was a wreck, and I didn't leave the house for a couple weeks, and I didn't take any clients on. I would just sit outside in my screened-in porch and just kind of stare out there and just write and journal. I had to get out of my head. I mean, I wasn't sleeping at all, and my siblings, they weren't all sleeping at all. And unfortunately, my sister was the one who found my dad, so she kind of went down a nasty spiral. Yeah, and then we went home, and I had to give the eulogy, and my brother and I did, and that was honestly, to this day, one of, if not the most powerful things I've ever had to do, and just kind of like reflecting on, my life with my dad, and what are some of the things that he's taught me and instilled in me, and having all these people from all over. I mean, they came from all over the country, just kind of like at the service, like sharing a story or two about my dad, stuff that I had no idea of. I'm like, how did I know about this before? It's just like all this cool stuff. And like, I have some of those quotes on my whiteboard. I like wrote them down. I had some friends and my dad just send me some stuff, and I like wrote them down just so I could always see them, just different things that he said. And I have a yearbook picture of my dad from high school, and it kind of had a little like story about him as his athletic journey. He's a pretty good athlete. He played college sports. I went to a school called McAllister and played baseball in Minnesota. And it was just like, the quote kind of summarized him having this heart of a lion, like this just like really courageous, brave nature about him. And I just have that yearbook picture with a quote underneath right above my desk on the whiteboard. Just always looking at it. Just different things like that were really cool for me. But Yeah, I think one of the things, blessing in disguise, I guess this has really allowed me to see is just, like life is just way too short. Like for me to get stuck in a job, obviously I did love it at the time that that was just secure. I wasn't fueled. It's not worth my time because at any moment, it could go like that. I mean, that's just kind of what I learned. My dad didn't, yes, he had all the precursors, but hell, he was giving it his all. He was 30 days sober and this happened. I mean, just like it can happen at any time to anybody. And we just all have to appreciate the current moment and just kind of give everything we can. And for me, I was working hard at Boeing, but I wasn't working smart. And now I'm working hard and smart, and it's just like really enjoyable for me to do that. And it's just kind of been a good thing for me to realize. Obviously, it's just heart wrenching. It's gutting, but it's been really a really good thing for me to realize, I guess, as a silver lining. So,
man, well. First of all, thanks for sharing that. Kind of, I know it's still pretty fresh.
Yeah.
And probably not easy to talk about.
Yeah.
But I think it's really neat that you can find a silver lining and extract the lessons from that.
Yep.
And it sounds like you really had to do the work.
Yeah.
And there were some, like you
still
said,
am.
some and continuing to. Yeah. So, were there any big kind of takeaways where you feel like you are like who you are now, you weren't at the end of March, as a result of, reflecting and journaling and appreciating what you had and really kind of diving into some of the lessons you got from your dad? Is there any key takeaways you can point to that are helping you now or that you believe will help you into the future personally or with your business?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. I would say that probably the biggest thing is just just trusting my gut. I think that's been the biggest thing for me, and that's something my dad would always say. He would say, if you have that feeling, just go with it. I think, after reflecting on that, because I didn't, like you talked about earlier, Kyle, with me, I never trusted my gut. I mean, I mentioned to you guys, I'm sure several times, how I wanted to just take the next step in my journey, and I think that if I looked at myself, say in like March or February versus now, I think I'm doing that more. I'm doing some of the things that I know I need to do deep in my gut, and I made this this step with LAD, just trusting that instinct, and I'm kind of operating more on that. Obviously, there's still going to be some analyzing and some thinking on it, but I'm not spending hours upon hours dwelling and thinking and overthinking. I'm just trying to react, like really, really react more off of my gut instinct. And that's something, like I told you, like I was just mentioning earlier, he always said to me, stop overthinking, stop overanalyzing. I mean, I did that when I was playing sports. I overanalyzed everything. I would go back and watch videos and this and that. And I remember he would just laugh his ass off watching me, like watch myself and like all my mess ups. But I think that's the biggest thing for me. And in terms of just, like my business, like I think if I were to look back on like February or January, here's like a prime example. Like say I would do like some content creation or a video, or I'd do a couple of these like Zoom calls or Skype calls with some of the athletes that I'm training out in like Denver, Colorado, for an example. I have an athlete who's out playing for the Colorado Switchbacks. I would like spend like an hour or so before and after just analyzing like what I was saying. Did I hit all the key points, as opposed to just kind of like being present in the moment? Like I was always like thinking about the past when I was in the present, and now I'm much more just involved in the moment, trying to soak up every single thing. Because like I said, I don't know when it's going to come to an end. I mean, I learned that the hard way, but I think with my business now, it's just like, being grateful and appreciative for everything I do have now, and not thinking about, oh gosh, I had 5-10 clients last month. How come I couldn't have 20? It's like, no, man, like why you have 5-10 clients right now. Be appreciative of that and soak all of that in, And I remember a couple instances like last year, I would take some of these kids out to lunch, and I would be just like, on my phone trying to figure out how I was gonna, do some outreach or something, just to kind of attract more people or more clients, or trying to like create a social media post. Just like I just was never really present in there, and even though my intention was good, the kid could sniff that out. And I think that's one of my differentiating factors now is like, just kind of being present and fully there and just like in the moment. And I think, a lot had to do with just that lesson that I learned from my dad. Just, it's, you never know what you have, and, until it's gone. So just soak that up, and, living in the present, being grateful that you have this this kid who's trusted you to teach them about life and about athleticism, and it's pretty cool. And like my journals now are a lot of gratitude journals, just being grateful for the things that I do have. And I don't think I was, I guess, bad at that. I didn't do or terrible at that. I just didn't do it enough, I think, and I would just get in the routine where I wouldn't do it, and then I would just time would fly by, and I would just keep operating in that past space. So yeah, definitely, I think that's the biggest one, Jay, is just like staying in the moment, being grateful and appreciative of the opportunity and the presence that I have. And that's definitely carried over in the business, even with the relationships with the kids. I mean, I'm fully there, and it's just kind of, I guess, leads to real results, and they can sniff that out, when I'm not there. So
that's what I was going to say. If you're always second guessing, like, oh, I have 5 to 10 clients, but I want more, like they can see that.
Totally.
And you probably lose those 5 to 10 clients because you're so worried about trying to get other people.
Yeah. I mean, I remember too, like even on the conversations, like I was saying on the Skype call, there would be like the athlete would say something to me, and I would spend like 30, 45 seconds just not even responding because I was doing something off on the side. And I'm like, come on, like, what are you doing? It's just stuff like that. Just like he could sniff it out. I just wasn't there. So.
Yeah. It's funny. I remember, back when we all used to coach fitness classes together.
Yeah.
And we would talk about how the best gift you can give someone during that class is your undivided attention.
Right.
Right. And just because you have, especially when you're teaching group fitness, and I know now you've mostly transitioned to one-on-one.
Yeah.
But you taught a lot of group classes before too.
Yep.
And when there's chaos essentially going on. There's always something. There's somebody behind you doing something. There's someone over here. And it's very easy to just look everywhere and be like, holy shit, what is happening? But in that moment, all it is a series of undivided attention on this person, whether it's for 30 seconds or 2 minutes or 30 minutes.
Yeah.
How do I give this person all of my energy, all of my attention, and make them better right here, right now?
Right.
And then I'll go over here and I'll solve this. I'll put this fire out, whatever's happening here in a second.
Yeah.
And it's kind of the same thing. I remember, it being almost kind of like meditative, right? Like when you're working with someone, maybe you need more money. Maybe, maybe there's a tough conversation that needs to be had with somebody else. Maybe, I don't know, your bedroom's dirty, whatever. Like there's stuff that needs to be done, but none of that can be done right now.
Right.
Right now, all you can do is just give this person your best energy and make them better and focus on the task at hand.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's kind of, so I'll kind of put in a little a segue here in my logo. Actually, the logo for LAD, it's going back to what you said, Jay. It's kind of like I call it like order in the chaos. So in the background of our logo, we have like a wave. It's just kind of like there's a lot of chaos that happens out in the ocean in a wave. You have some highs and lows. You never know what to expect at any given moment. And then overlaying that wave is a triangle, just kind of like some sturdiness, some edges. And it's kind of like there's a couple things to that. But one of the things when I was working to kind of create that logo is, like you said, there's always going to be these outside noises. Stuff's going to come up throughout your life. How do you find in that moment an opportunity to find some sort of order and whatever it is that, like I said, kind of that presence. And that's why I had that kind of like that rigidity overlaying that complexity in the background. So that was one of the things I thought was pretty cool. And you just kind of touched on it with the logo that we created.
I like that. I never knew that.
Yeah. So that's kind of how the logo,
awesome.
Yeah. And then also too, like one of my big things is I'm big on like the feet and like developing the feet. I know I talk to you about this all the time, Kyle, but in that tripod, it kind of symbolizes too, like the foot, you have, the three sides, and it's actually an upside down triangle. So I like to think of the foot as, a triangle. You have like a series of arches, but I won't get too deep in the rabbit hole, but it's just like, it's kind of like symbolizing the foot. And I think movement starts at the ground, from the ground up. And it's just kind of like a foot in a sense, there too.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah. Awesome, man. Okay. So you're working with now, you not only work with middle school, all the way up, high school athletes, college athletes, professional athletes. Mm-hmm. You're also working with the guy, like, what about me? What about a guy like me?
Yeah.
Do you see some potential in
absolutely, Jay.
A 40-year-old guy?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think kind of one of the things I hit on earlier is just a lot of times that what I see is just myself included, we lose that ability to be athletic as we grow in our life. We get so stuck in, going to do the barbell lifts or the dumbbell lifts at the gym. And I've fallen victim to that for years. And instead of doing some of the things that we're innately able to do, such as run or sprint or jump, or different elastic movements. And I think, like as an example, Kyle and I play basketball downtown at the Citadel, and we have a friend of ours who, ruptured their Achilles tendon. And I talked to him after the fact, and he was just doing all those bodybuilding type of movements, and there was no innate human athletic ability about him that he was trying to develop. I mean, there was no running, skipping, jumping, hopping, none of that. And I think, like, as we grow older, we lose sight of that. And then what happens is we go try and jump into a pickup basketball game, and we're done like that. Mm-hmm. And then it becomes a psychological effect. Oh crap, I gotta rehab, and I can't play basketball anymore. I'm done. So, end our athletic careers at 18. I mean, we have this whole runway of things we can do still. And why can't we? I mean, who's to say we can't? So what I would do is just kind of, obviously progressively overload that, but gradually get more of, us involved in doing that. And especially making it friendly or competitive, different games like that. Like we're all playing some adult, rec sports games, but different running and jumping and, getting outside in nature and doing stuff like that. Even the gymnastics stuff I think is really cool. I've been doing a lot of that recently. I know I did that a lot with you, Jay, back in the day. And we all have that innate human ability, and we just, lose sight of it. And it's just, like I said, that monotony, and then we just forget about it and we don't develop it. And, I really think that we all have the opportunity to go out and the ability to go out and play sports and still be athletic. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't go away. So I like to think that we can all still do that with a little bit of training and some guidance. And, I do that with a lot of the guys at the men and women at the country club. And I see some folks in the Gen Pop at my home gym in Mount Pleasant.
Oh, that's us. That's us. Yeah.
But that's some of the things that, I like to do. So it's just, the barbell is great, but, it's just like it's a lot of compressive load. And I think kind of taking that away for a period of time is really good, just to kind of like be more elastic, develop, that natural shape of the body instead of just being compressed all the time on your joints and stuff. It's good to kind of take that away for a period of time and just kind of move, like I said, more like freely, like a flow in a sense. I think that's really good to develop just that well-rounded athlete. So.
Absolutely agree.
I saw did you guys see there was a meme on Instagram a few weeks back, and I forget exactly how it was worded, but it was something like every mid-30s to mid-40s man still thinks that they could become a professional athlete if they only applied themselves.
Yeah, that's me.
Yeah. Still in the back of your head.
Definitely.
Like, if only I applied myself, then I would. Yeah. When does that actually go away? Awesome, man. So we got a couple minutes left here before we need to wrap here. Where do you see LAD Performance going in the next 5 years or so? Yeah,
so I definitely want to, open up a location. Right now I'm operating out of my home gym, and I'm in a couple locations, just through the summer. Like I'm over at D1 over in Mount Pleasant on Ben Sawyer, over there doing some summer camps this summer. Like speed and agility, but eventually what I want to do in the next few years is open a location, and I want to be have a opportunity with some partners to kind of open up that one-stop shop, a place like where athletes can come in and get the full well-rounded approach. Maybe it's some chiropractic work or massage therapy work, or maybe it's the saunas and the cold plunges, that full spectrum of that training, the rehab, recovery, everything like that, kind of all under one roof. And I've been talking to some people about that, but not sure exactly when that would be. But that's kind of what I want to pursue down the road. And it's cool working with some of these partners like a D1, just to kind of see how they're doing and how they're operating, and what they see and how they got to that point. And have a lot of the kids ask me, like when I'm going to do that and stuff. So it's cool just to kind of like hear that and say, yeah, like you're making a difference. Like kids want you to do this, and the parents are asking me, like the parents want you to kind of open up a space to see more kids. So that's always been the goal. I mean, I remember when I was a young kid, training, I always wanted to, constantly be in the training room or at the gym, just doing things. And I kind of, now it's crazy. I'm like that guy who's kind of, leading that setting. And I think it's really cool how that played itself out, after all these years. And so yeah, that's definitely the goal for us, and
very cool.
Yeah, hoping it comes here soon. So,
very cool.
Yeah.
if someone wants to learn more about you, about the legend, the man, the myth, or if they want to learn more about LED Performance, possibly inquire about working with you, where should they go?
Yeah. So right now I'm pretty active relatively on Instagram at LED Performance, and then stay tuned for YouTube. I have a YouTube channel, LED Performance, as well. I have a lot more content coming out, just kind of highlighting some of my programs, and I also have another program that's coming down the pipeline. I actually work a lot mainly with soccer athletes, so I have like a whole side soccer program that I'm working to develop now that'll be out here this summer. So YouTube, Instagram. I also have a website. That's www.ledperformance.com. Those are probably the 3 avenues to go through, and you can find all my online programs there. A little bit about me and how we were kind of formed, and so if you feel like you want to get together, please feel free and reach out to me. I'd love to get to know you and meet you, and hope to work with you. So
beautiful. We're gonna wrap with final 2 questions here.
Sure.
We have if you could go back in time to young Leonard. Yeah. He's not quite as wise or as seasoned as our current edition of Leonard is, right? What would you say to him?
Good question. I think I would just say, just one of the things that I hit on is just don't overthink every single thing. Just kind of let it all play out. Don't second guess it, and just go. Trust what you believe in, and not look back. And there's always going to be some outside noise, that chaos. People talking this, that, and the other, and everyone has that on a different scale. But if you're just true to yourself and you believe in yourself, and you have that good support system, which I'm fortunate enough to have, with family and friends like you guys to help guide me, it's just go for it and not look back, and just pursue it. So
awesome, man. I love it. Final question. You ready for this?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. Let's say someone's watching this. Maybe someone's in the corporate world right now.
Yeah.
Or it could be a young athlete, but they're watching this. They're getting pumped up.
Yeah.
They're jumping around the living room listening to you talking about this, and they're thinking about maybe making that jump themselves into something that's a little scary.
Yeah.
What's a piece of advice that you would give to that person?
Yeah, I would say the first thing is just to kind of like what I did. I think I did a good job with it. Is not just going right into it. Kind of be somewhat strategic about it. So, when I was working at Boeing, I think the last couple of years I was doing all this on the side. So what that allowed me to do is, all right, I kind of figured, hey, is this really something that I do want to do? This training, is it sustainable? Is it just kind of like a niche that I'm scratching just for the near term, or is it something that I want to pursue down the long run? So I kind of did a lot of this on the side. I kind of had that side hustle, and I built up a little bit of a name for myself, or a little bit of a brand here, just through doing that on the weekends, free. I mean, I was already getting that Boeing, that security from Boeing, and it was great. And then I was just trying to build up a name for myself by trying to get out there any way possible and do workouts outside or in my home gym, just to see as many people as I could. So I think that is by far the biggest thing. Just don't jump ship without a plan. I think have your plan, stick to it, and then when you do build a base, and for me, I waited I think way too long, is go after it and not second guess it. So don't just jump ship. I think that's bad advice. I think you got to build up your name a little bit, build up a brand, build up a clientele, and if it is for free, it's okay. It'll come back and pay for itself down the road. Yep. You have to believe that, and that's one of the things that I really struggle with. But I'm glad I did. I did so many outdoor free workouts, and but what it was enabled me to do is the kids where I was training, they sent messages to other kids, and their parents contacted me, and it was kind of like a domino effect. So the good will come back to you. So that's I think that's really it. Just come prepared with the plan, stick to it, trust the process, and then if you like it and you want to pursue it, just don't second guess it. Go after it.
Beautiful. That's awesome, man. We appreciate you coming on. We got a full spectrum of a lot of different things, and it was great. I appreciate you coming to hang out with us.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Dude, thanks for coming on the pod, man. It's been awesome.
Yeah, I always appreciate chatting with you guys.
We'll be watching, loving on you, supporting you any way that we can, bro.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Hey y'all, that's a wrap on today's episode. Thanks so much for watching. We hope you enjoyed it. Make sure to like or follow or subscribe, whatever platform you're on. Just hit the button to make sure you don't miss any future episodes.
Yep, and please help us grow the channel by sharing it with someone else who might enjoy it as well. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.